Hey there, welcome to First Look. Thanks for being here this week. I am back and I'm ready to roll. I am coming back from vacation. I got to go to Maine for the first time. We were in the Acadia National Park area and then the Portland area. So it kind of felt like two different trips at once. One was like hiking and biking and doing that kind of stuff, and lakes and ponds and trees and rocks and the whole shebang. And then the other one was more, bakeries and the water and lighthouses and lobster rolls and things like that, which is also wonderful and fantastic. And got to go with my family, and we all got to be off, and we did the whole drive back in one day. So I'm trying to get back into the swimming of things, but I'll try to post some pictures and everything like that. But it was really a good trip. The weather was wonderful. It's beautiful places to be, and I'm very, very grateful for the time and where we were able to stay, and all of that was just great. And I got a chance to view the worship service for Sunday, and so I'm very grateful for Elizabeth Nicodemus for bringing the word, and for Bree Lewis and Robin McMillan and Stephen Shaw for doing all the wonderful things that they do to make the service what it is. And I really appreciated the thoughtfulness and the opportunity to be introspective that I heard from Elizabeth. I think that was what I really took away from the sermon, was just the room that she left to wonder and to take the story in and allow it to affect who you are, where you are personally for you right now. And that perspective was really appreciated. So I was really, really glad to see that. And so we move into this week, and we're kind of doing these same things where we're trying to understand ourselves. I think I've been trying to talk about this like it's this is a season of identity, a season of us pondering what it means to be us. And this week, I think, is a great week for that because of a couple of reasons. First, it's Stewardship Sunday, and so we'll be looking at the passage from that perspective. But then also, we're going to be having a town hall meeting, a gathering of sorts, where we look at who we are now. We put together some plans as leadership that were approved right before I started 5 or 6 years ago, and we're reevaluating them. We're kind of taking stock of things, and we've been doing a lot of that since the pandemic, is trying to imagine and reimagine, what do we take and try to run with and try to grow, and what are we pruning, and how do we do that? And, because we're all different now. And the world is different. And so how do we match our priorities to that? So I'm looking forward to this weekend and how it gives us another opportunity to kind of explore those things. So Stewardship Sunday has the emphasis that it sounds like, but we really tried to do this in a different way each time. And this time, what we were trying to imagine and think about is, what about ourselves do we really value more than anything? Because when it comes to the stewardship of our resources, that plays such a pivotal role in how we do that, and what we discern, and where we put our time. And so thinking about that and sort of, bouncing some different themes around, what really struck us was the sense of relationship and community and care for each other. that this is a place of worship, and this is a place of learning and discipleship, and those are all really important elements of what make us who we are. But what I have been trying to emphasize and what I've been trying to talk about with prospective new members, with folks who have been here for a long time, is that I think the relationship and the pursuit of relationship is what makes Northmont unique. That this is not a congregation that's just facing forward, trying to absorb information from the person in the robe with the stole on, but that you're kind of putting your money where your mouth is all the time and investing in each other very intentionally, very individually. And what I have been saying to some folks, we were talking about membership, is that Northmont should change with every person who comes into it. That you're not just assimilating into a system, but that you are changing that system with your presence. And that is an important thing. And when it comes to our stewardship and what we're invested in, that I think speaks a lot to what we really care about and what we're trying to do here. It's not the programs or the mission or the worship should all be ways of us drawing closer in those relationships, our relationship with God, our relationship with each other. And then that translates into a relationship with our community, our society, the world. Like that's a really, I think, important. It seems intuitive, but I think you and I have all been to churches where it feels more like a product. We produce a product, you buy into that product, you get something out of that product, and then you go. That's not the way I think of this congregation, the strength of it. That everything that we do is intentional about how we build relationships with each other, and how we allow those relationships to, I think, to empower us and to, where we find support, and how we grow. That's a point of real, I think, pride for me, and I think for all of us. So this passage, as we read it, is really about trying to look at that through that lens. So we batted a passage around for a little while, and this is the one that we think spoke to that kind of sense of community and intentional relationship, and it's from 1 John. 1 John is really, it's near the end. It's one of the shorter books. The John books 1, 2, and 3 are all very short books, and they all emphasize things a little bit differently. And if I remember to do it, I will send you a review of 1 John. If you remember, a couple of years ago, maybe it was during the pandemic, I guess, I was doing one book, one story. And what I would do is give you kind of an overview of each book of the Bible. I mean, we literally went from Genesis to Revelation, if I remember right. And it took, like almost a year and a half, because we did a couple of things here and there in between. But, we took each book and kind of looked at them and broke them down and what are they about and what aren't they about? And, so I remember when we did the Johns, we were talking a lot about the differences between the three and why they're there and what makes them important. And but 1 John is the whole of the book is really emphasizing community. And so that's a big reason why we chose that. And this this fourth chapter, this piece of the fourth chapter, is the last chapter in the book, and I think really sort of gives us a good synopsis of what John's trying to accomplish here. So this is chapter 4, and we're going to start in verse 7 and then go to verse 11. So here we go. Excuse me. Beloved, let us love one another, because love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. God's love was revealed among us in this way. God sent his only Son into the world so that we might live through him. In this is love, not that we love God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the atoning sacrifice for our sins. Beloved, since God loved us so much, we also ought to love one another. So, I hope that the reason that we chose that is relatively straightforward. But what I wanted to kind of break down for you a little bit was the way I think that that's not only important from a stewardship standpoint, but then also from an identity standpoint. So a lot of, sorry, getting rid of something on my screen. A lot of the ways that we identify ourselves as people of faith is not only through our perspective or our lens or the way that we see the world, but the churches that we find ourselves in. And since you happen to find yourself in a Presbyterian church and we happen to be talking about who we are, then this passage, one of the reasons I liked it for what we're doing in this season of identification, the season of grappling with our sense of self, is that it kind of, I think, speaks to the one element of who we are as a church that I think is most vital. If you were to ask me, and I've said this a handful of times, if you were to ask me what is the most vital idea when it comes to what it means to be Presbyterian, and believe it or not, I was talking about this on vacation, and my sister-in-law and I were talking about something, and the differences between Presbyterian churches and Methodist churches. And so we were talking about, election and providence and these different kind of ideas. And one of the things that we were talking about was, what makes being Presbyterian unique. And so we started talking about those ideas, and they all boiled down to a lot of what we see in this verse. So in this first verse or two, let us love one another because love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. So that talks about basically that the authorship, the initiating place where our faith and love and compassion start from is from God. And again, that might seem rudimentary, but there's so much of it that there's a domino effect. So when we talk about what it means to be Presbyterian or Reformed, we always talk about the fact that God is the author of. God starts things and we respond. And you've heard me say that many times. And the reason that's important is because it means that I can't earn it. I don't initiate it. I'm not the I can't be the one who is ultimately in control of it has the power. God is the one who I am responding to, who is, moving within me, through the Spirit moves within me, and I respond to that Spirit through my own will. And it means that I can't be the one who saves myself. Like, my salvation isn't about what I do. And I am simply someone who is turning to, accepting, holding on to that which God has already done. And so that plays a huge role in how I understand myself. Because I am, one, it says something about how perfectly I am loved and accepted. It's not based on earning something. I didn't check off enough boxes, or I did check off enough boxes. So it says something about that relationship. It says something about who God is. And then it also says something about how I'm supposed to love other people, right? If I'm simply responding to perfect love, then I have to love people with as much grace and compassion and fill their lives with as much hope as I'm receiving, right? I'm not making them earn it. God has already accepted them, has already loved them. So I love God by loving them, and vice versa. And that's, I think, a powerful idea. They're not going to earn enough God points to be saved. That's not the way it works. And so what we see there is that if that is the way that we understand our relationship with God, that it has to be the way that we understand the relationship with each other. That we then accept each other as God would accept us. We love each other as God would love us. Knowing that the people aren't going to earn our love. And so we pour into people. We show empathy, not because they have earned something or because they have done right by us, but because that's what God would do. And, when we think about investing in each other, I don't invest in this church, or I don't invest in the people in it because they have somehow earned something, but because that is what the nature of a relationship with my fellow human is. And so we are investing in our ability to do that well, and to provide for our means of response. So thinking about that from a stewardship standpoint, that our dollars aren't about us earning something or being worthy of something. They are about how we can help to invest in that response of love, that community building, how we enrich the lives of the people around us. And I think that's something that sometimes we lose sight of, or at least I do. That all of us have a responsibility towards enriching the lives of the people around us. And it could be in the ways that we show up for each other, how we participate, excuse me, It could be all of those things. But the stewardship of it is that we are investing in a place, we are investing in a ministry, we're investing in a church that we believe not only enriches the lives of the people who are here, but also of those who will be or can be or would be with us. Those who are in need, the broader community. So that we are providing a means for which that kind of enrichment can happen. Which is a different way of seeing, I think, our role here. And I think that I have probably over the last couple of years that has been something that's been more and more important to the way that I see my work. So when I think about my role as a pastor, if you ask me what's important to your role as a pastor, what do you really get out of it? What do you care about? Why do you do this work? When I was working with youth, I had one particular kind of goals in mind. Like, I want them to have those aha moments. I want them to be accepted. I want them to feel cared for. I want them to feel like they're a part of something. I want them to have some direction. I want that. And then other times it was, I want the church to really be able to have an impact in the world around us from a justice standpoint, from a mission standpoint. And all of those things are wonderful, and they're all a part of it. And I think that more and more, at least what I've grown to appreciate about being here, is that in this place, the more we grow in relationship with one another, the more we can have an impact in those different areas, which isn't all going to be the same for all of us. But I think what I have come to really see my role as is that if I can enrich the experience of the people who are here, their experience with God, their experience with their own faith, then that fuels passion. And stewardship is a natural part of that. And I think that that's what I hope to try to convey in the sermon on Sunday, is just how all of those things fit together. So my hope is that as we look at this passage, and we could be looking at it from a lot of different perspectives, that as you're kind of considering the stewardship that you participate in, that would be some of what really fuels that thinking. How does what I do in response here say anything about what I care about, who I care about, and how do I help to provide and enrich the experience of the people around me so that we can then go and have that impact. And that's I'm hoping is a powerful idea. Excuse me. So that's what I'm hoping for this week, is that we continue to think about our sense of who we are, that we take each week to kind of look at that. And then as we go in from the worship service into this town hall gathering thing, that we then can take some of the focused questions and activities and say, hey, how does that translate into where I think we're headed as a group? What do we have energy for? What do we care about? How are we pruning things? What kind of impact can we have now? What will fuel us and help us to, be our most faithful selves? That's kind of where we're headed. So that's my hope for this week. That's where I'm looking to go. I appreciate you kind of searching that out with me, and that's really helpful. And we thank you ahead of time for participating in that town hall. Yeah, so that's what I have. It's good to be back. It's good to have a little bit of time to kind of think and breathe and then dive right into the stuff that's ahead. So thanks for looking at this passage. Thanks for being you. If you have any questions, please let me know. But otherwise, I will see you next time for another First Look. Have a wonderful week, and see you this weekend. Take care.